Welcome back to another edition of the College Football Show that now, Lucy, has a name.
And we can't tell you quite yet.
But we'll tell you next week. We have a tentative name. We're working on artwork. It is not the name that you heard teased last week. In fact, we finally agreed on the name, I think, to nip that bit in the bud. And
Foot Girls is dead.
Move forward. We never were the Foot Girls, and we never will be the Foot Girls. So we're going to try out a new name next week. And probably
Absolutely. Not for Foot Girls. There's going to be no feet involved. We don't have to worry about that. We're good. It was championship weekend.
It was championship weekend.
It was sad.
It's a weird, like, the end of the college football season, like, everything happens so fast. It's like there's conference champions, coaches are getting fired and hired, people are entering the portal, it's recruiting season again. Like, everything happens so fast at the last 2 weeks of college football season. So we have a lot to talk about. But where do you want to start today?
Where do I want to start? Why don't we start? Let's start with what sneaky best game of the weekend. You can go Alabama, Georgia too. Washington, Oregon was. Ooh. That was a fun one.
I watched that with Taylor, actually.
Aww.
Taylor, we had a fun time.
Great time. He's a great coach.
Lehman made us pork shoulder. So we had tacos. It was a nice time.
Until Oregon started to come back, like when it was like Washington up big early, I was reading tweets about Indiana's new coach. And I was like, we are a championship week, and I care about Indiana football right now. Like, this is a problem. Ended up being a great game. I felt pretty dumb in the process because I was so like, there's no way Oregon loses to Washington. Oregon is
Washington came out very strong in this game, and then like Oregon, middle late, Lucy, they got some mojo back around the half and in the third quarter, but it wasn't enough.
Bo Nix couldn't manifest it enough. The whole time they were just with him on Littell there, and like Fowler was like, he's envisioning himself on this next drive. That's what he's doing.
And then he never got the ball.
He never got the ball. And some poor camera guy had to sit there and squat and just film Bo Nix for like 10 minutes straight.
It was a lot of Bo Nix.
It was
with the towel for that. I mean,
towel.
I would have liked to see maybe like Washington's players were doing at that time too. I don't know. I thought that Dylan Johnson, who's the running back for Washington, has had a really strong second half of the season, and he was probably the MVP of the game, but like not. I think Michael Penix ended up being the Pac-12 Championship MVP, but they have done a really good job balancing that huge passing attack with a very solid ground game. He ended up with 28 carries for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. And when you come out and you score 4 touchdowns or four scores on your first 5 possessions, it's tough to overcome that, even with a high-scoring offense like Oregon. So thought that it was a really, really great game. I'm glad that the Pac-12 Championship, like, they play that awkward like Friday night game, and the teams don't get a full week to prepare. And it was also it's at a neutral site. It's in Las Vegas, which all the games are at a neutral site now, basically. But I was glad that it got like a good atmosphere and a good send-off for the Pac-12 conference, because, as we know, probably the last time a Pac-12 championship game will ever be played.
I am embarrassed, but when I saw the picture of all the mascots together for the last time, I was like, I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry in this hotel room in Atlanta because of the mascots saying goodbye to each other.
Yeah, and they were all dancing and stuff.
Yeah, they had their like little moments. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's ending.
Except for that fucking tree. But the tree wasn't there.
I don't actually know the tree was there.
It was there?
Yeah, but it was like camo. It was like
in the back.
Yeah, it was it didn't look like the tree. It definitely like got on its weird Vegas clothes, leaves, ornaments.
Well, I hate the tree, but I also don't like Liberty. Just kidding. That was a bad segue.
No, I thought it was great. I love that one.
Liberty won Conference USA in the championship game. They beat New Mexico State 49-35. Low-key, another game with the offensive explosion. That one started a little bit before the Pac-12 game, so I caught some of it. But now Liberty, undefeated in their first season with Jamie Chadwell. They continue to just like randomly have these incredible quarterbacks. Caden Salter finished the season with 2,750 passing yards, 1,064 rushing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's a pretty solid stat line for them.
I don't want to get too far into the Florida State stuff just because everyone has been talking about it this week, and I know we've talked about it a lot on the main show. But I'm not a fan of this Liberty football team, and it's it was very bothersome to me that the argument that applied to or didn't apply to FSU applied to Liberty because they're playing Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl when I think SMU would have been a better choice out of the group of 5.
Yeah, they played
because
a way
Liberty
harder schedule.
Didn't play one single team this year. Their strength of schedule, I believe, 132 or 133 out of 133. All right. Iowa could win 12 games.
Well, So Jamie Chadwell, who came from Coastal Carolina, it's his first season at Liberty. He is, like, by all metrics, a very good head coach. Yeah. And the players at Liberty are very good. My beef with Liberty is more so their administration, which I don't feel like I have to explain. But
I've internalized that
they're playing now in the Fiesta Bowl against Oregon. I'm very interested to see what Liberty looks like against Oregon. I know that there's going to be so many opt-outs that it's not going to be quite the same Oregon team, but I have to imagine, I don't know what the line is on this game. I have to imagine it's like 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. SMU played, they lost their 2 games against TCU and Oklahoma, which were their 2 Power 5 teams that they played this season. But they beat Tulane in the championship game in the American, the last SMU American Conference game, because now they're joining the ACC. But they looked very impressive. And Tulane, I think I can't remember, they were a favorite in the game, but now Tulane's head coach, Willie Fritz, we're kind of skipping forward here to the American Championship, Conference Championship, but Willie Fritz is going to Houston, which is really sad for Tulane because he was very successful there. They won a New Year's Six bowl game last year with him. They've been ranked the last 2 seasons pretty high. They lost their conference championship game right as the news was leaking that he had officially accepted the job, which stinks timing-wise. But I'm with you. I thought that overall, I would have liked to see either of those teams in that New Year's Six game. And I thought that when the committee was like, all Liberty did this season was win, I was like, that's interesting because you know who else won all their games this season?
Florida State. Florida State did that.
Weird. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting and weird.
The one thing we know for sure, Bo Nix playing in the game, he's not saying goodbye to college until he absolutely has to. Until the very end.
Yeah.
So as long as Bo Nix playing, I have a lot of faith that Oregon's going to win this game and going to win pretty big. I think they're
maybe
way more talented.
We should do like a little bowl preview.
We
next
should.
week. I love bowl season. It's been said, but bowl season is really the best time of year.
It's the best. It rules so hard, and I don't care. My thing with the opt-outs, I was actually talking to Jeremy about this earlier in the week. Like, even with the opt-outs, it's a really nice moment to sort of see, hey, here's what you've got coming next year.
Yeah, it's a good preseason
Yeah.
game. I agree. I think it's a more of an indication of it's like you get to play a second spring game, but it's against another team.
It's really nice.
The only thing that I think I would change about bowl season, maybe your bowl win or loss shouldn't count towards that year's record. Maybe in the future we will just not count that at all because it is really tough to field a team, especially if you have a bunch of guys going into the portal or opting out, for the NFL to you have 15 practices, right? And a lot of times, Oregon State is going to be playing with their 3rd string quarterback in their bowl game against Notre Dame. I don't know if that should count against a head coach. Their new head coach that just got promoted into that position. You don't want to have your coaching record start out 0-1 when you're going into the next season. It just feels a little unfair for the coaches and the players, but it also it's one game, so it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah.
How will the Big 12 be able to be like, we beat all these SEC teams and we're the best conference in football if we're not counting the games?
Or UCF.
Exactly.
Well, they're in the Big 12 now, so they're
in the Big 12.
Speaking of which, Texas beat the crap out of Oklahoma State.
Kind of figured that would happen. That game was as over. I can't talk today. There's construction going on. That's not the reason I can't.
No, but it doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
There's a drill, and sometimes the drill it feels like the drill's going into your brain.
Yeah.
Because it just happens, and it's so loud, and it's so deep.
And the lights are bright in here.
Way too bright.
And
But better now.
We watched the Big Ten Championship game this week. I just haven't been doing well for several days now.
But this game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah, this game was over pretty much right away. Texas is way more talented. Texas deserves their spot in the playoff. This kind of felt pretty natural. There's also weird stuff with Oklahoma State killing a Longhorn before. All the vibes are really off for this one.
I didn't read that story, but I saw a headline and I need to look into that because it sounded horrible.
I don't think it even had anything to do with the Big 12 championship game. I think it was frat drama.
Oh God.
But I don't know if that's accurate, but the vibes were off for this one, but it pretty much played out exactly how I expected it to.
Yeah, Texas finished the season blowing out their last 2 opponents, Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, 106-28. Do you feel like Texas had to put some style points on in this game, or do you think they would have been in no matter what? Like, if the game ended up being like 49-48, do you think they still are in the playoff?
I think if Alabama had won, yes. So, like, going in with the notion that we know Alabama's going to beat Georgia, then yes, I think they would have been in. But had Georgia beat Alabama and it had been a closer game, I wouldn't necessarily say that was the case, but part of the reason the committee said they faulted Florida State is because they played a close game against Louisville and they couldn't score or move the ball.
I thought it was nice that Jonathan Brooks got the final snap of the game. Classy by Sark. Classy. Let your injured running back in there do a little neat
cute
victory formation. I don't know if you caught any of the MAC championship, but
did not.
Ooh, it was a really good game. Chuck Martin wins his second MAC championship. He's been at Miami of Ohio a long time. Happy for him. They've got I think the number one special teams in the country, but I don't know. Iowa might be coming for him because of Troy Taylor.
Yeah, we had a rough weekend against Michigan. Not punting wise, we did so good. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to catch a lot of these games. SEC Championship took up most of my time. But I'm glad it did. Awesome game.
It was
Atlanta.
awesome. What was it like being there? Because like we mentioned, like a lot of these games are at neutral sites, and so the tailgating scene. I've tailgated at Mercedes-Benz a few times for SEC games, and like it's weird. It feels like an NFL tailgate. So it was not you. Like, would you rather this be at Georgia?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the game's in Atlanta, so when you're looking fans wise, obviously there was a big discrepancy. There was a ton of Georgia fans there. That game really sucked. I kind of wish not sucked like in the actual game. The game was great, but just like atmosphere wise. Oh my god, was that? I mean,
game day was like in a indoor convention center.
So it was forecasted to like have heavy rain. That it ended up not raining at all. So everything got moved inside to the convention center. So game day had like 16 people there. And you're like, oh, this isn't maybe the best look. It was just not like I've always
didn't feel like college football.
It didn't really feel like college football. I've always been like a huge proponent, especially now that we're explaining the playoff, that there needs to be a way to get more of these games at home.
Yeah.
Whether like if you're a higher seed, I know you get a bye, but like why not have a home game as well? It's great for the schools, it's great for the sport, it's great for the fans, whatever. But yeah, the vibes were off. Didn't really matter though. Game was great. It was super fun.
So much fun.
Oh my god, was that game electric? Like there was by like the third quarter, I was like, Alabama's gonna win this. So like there was like not a doubt in my mind. The vibes were off. And I said, okay, Alabama's gonna win this game. Absolutely impressive. Like this might be Nick Saban's most impressive season so far at Bama, just considering the way they started. Like you were tied at half against UCF, and you didn't have an offensive line, you didn't have a quarterback, and your quarterback could have very well ended the year as a Heisman finalist. Just with the way he finished the season off.
I was surprised he wasn't. I
mean, thought he was going to be one too.
Maybe because like he got benched in like the third game, and like the Heisman voters really favor people that don't get benched.
Yeah.
Like
they love
Heisman
a good story,
voters
though.
favor like consistency throughout the season. I feel like someone like Milroe, who started out and like struggled a lot and then improved tremendously by the end of the season, like. You prefer to favor someone like Jaden Daniels, who started out the season really strong, or Bo Nix or Michael Penix start out the season really strong and like just have a dominant season. I get that. I'm not a voter, so I don't really totally understand like what the mindset is or what the criteria is there. But I'm with you. He has been playing so much better, and Alabama just as a whole, like they terrify me. I totally get Michigan players reacting to them being put in the playoff and being like, no, because I think that would have been my reaction too. Like if Notre Dame had somehow made the playoff this season and I was like, we got to play Alabama again after we saw them suck at the beginning of the year. Like I wrote them off in week 3. Well, I didn't, because I never write off Nick Saban.
I did.
Then we went from that to the Big Ten championship game, which was a
I
real letdown.
I figured that's how we were going to transition. Here's my take. Committee came out and they were like, we decided not to let Florida State in after watching them struggle to get a first down against Louisville, struggle to score. The score of the Michigan game is not necessarily the full picture. Michigan had a real tough time moving the ball against Iowa, which everyone does. They have an elite defense. Half of Michigan's points, more than half Michigan's points, were Iowa being like, we don't really know what a fumble is. Here you go. It was one of those things where like I was very impressed with. Iowa's down by 10 at half. So impressed with that. Yeah, it sucked. It always sucks. Iowa's offense is terrible.
Yeah.
If we had the 90th best offense in the country, I don't even need top 50. I don't even need top 75. I just need, less than 100.
Yeah.
I believe Iowa could have won that game. And I'm not saying that ironically because Michigan, if you actually watched, their offense did not look good. They had their worst offensive performance of the year against Iowa.
They have struggled a lot the last 3 games, but they've also been playing some really tough defenses, including Iowa's. Much as we make fun of Iowa's offense, which finished 127th in S&P Plus, which is Bill Connolly's metric for measuring.
Better than I thought. A lot better than I thought. I think that's a jump up.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't 133, so.
Which is pretty good.
But yeah, Blake Corum is only averaging 4 yards or fewer per carry in 6 of the last 7 games. That's according to ESPN. But you have to, consider that they're playing Penn State, Ohio State, and now Iowa in 3 of those games. So maybe they're partially, it's like, okay, they might not see a defense that tough in the playoff, although now we know they will because Alabama's got a very good defense. But maybe they're saving something up, like they're not having to do that much on offense to win, so maybe we keep some tricks in the bag. I don't really know if that's like a thing that offensive coordinators actually do, but it is something that everyone says every year.
Yeah, well, we were waiting for Brian Ferentz to do that for his final game. They're like, he'll be in his bag for this one. And then he was like, absolutely not. That's the thing. After watching that Iowa game and knowing that, man, if Iowa had an offense that just wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, they really could have won that game. It made me lose pretty much all confidence in Michigan, especially seeing now that they got that Alabama matchup, because Alabama's defense is phenomenal. It's I won't say it's good as Iowa's because who knows. Very good.
But Alabama's defense has been the one thing this season that I don't think people have doubted.
Yeah, no, it is set. Iowa doesn't have Jalen Milroe. Iowa does not have the talent that Alabama has on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know what it is about this Michigan team. There's something in me that doesn't trust them. And maybe it's because they're dirty cheaters. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I don't trust them. But I
don't trust them either.
Yeah.
Iowa ended up 109 points short of averaging 25 points per game, which was the threshold if Brian Ferentz hadn't already been let go by the athletic director. So.
Well, he wore Iowa stuff to this game finally. So
he just needed pride. He just needed like 6 more games.
He just needed. It was pretty impressive. Not scoring a single point. When our point total at half was like half a point.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that people were like, wow, can you believe it was 0.5. I was like, please.
Yeah, have you watched?
Because of Lucy, I've been watching so much Iowa all season. Nothing surprised me less.
We need to take a minute because the level of anger I felt in my hotel room watching College Game Day, watching them all pick Iowa to win. Lee Corso been like, that's my upset pick. Give me Iowa. Theo Vaughn, Pat McAfee, all like, yeah, Iowa. Get out of here.
Oh, God.
I was furious. And then everyone was like, they can do it. Have
they not been listening to Lucy?
Literally.
She's the number 24 big game boomer college football personality.
I was ahead of the list of McAfee.
Well, that's why.
That's why. Yeah, I was furious. That game sucked, but I lost a lot of faith in Michigan because of that game because Iowa had their way. Iowa had their way defensively. And if we wouldn't have turned the ball over inside the 10-yard line like 17 times, we probably could have kept it a little bit closer.
Yeah. Alabama's got the 8th-ranked defense in college football, according to S&P Plus, Bill Connolly. You should check out his work on ESPN. Taylor, what is your Iowa stat?
If you bet $100 on the Iowa under and rolled it over every week since the Purdue game, you'd have $23,000 right now.
God. They haven't hired an offensive coordinator yet, but the name I keep seeing on Twitter, which is all Twitter rumors, is Paul Chryst from Wisconsin. We're keeping that under going. We're keeping the under alive.
That's awesome. Oh, man. Okay, ACC Championship game. I mean, I think we've already talked enough about, like, Florida State this week in general, but I will reiterate, their defense looked very good. Both offenses struggled a ton in this game.
Nothing wrong with that.
Both very good defenses, but both offenses were oof. Louisville finished in the 0th percentile in EPA and in yards per play. That's tough. But they ended up having, I think, a really solid season. I wondered all year, like, is Louisville really like that good? I think they were like very solid first year with Jeff Brom. They finished 10-3, playing for a conference championship game. That's a very good season for Louisville, and I think there's only positive forward steps you can take from here for the program.
Yeah, absolutely. They're hitting the transfer portal market already. Like, I have a lot of faith in Jeff Braun being at Louisville. It doesn't seem like that much up of a step, like job-wise from Purdue, but I think it actually is. I think you have more access to talent. I think you have more money.
I think especially when it's like your alma mater
It's his
too,
own-
like
exactly.
it unlocks things that maybe you aren't able to access when you're coming in from the outside.
Yeah, 100%.
That really hit a rhythm.
The Louisville team, any team that loses to Pitt, I have to sit and I have to think about for a little bit. I have to take some time to reflect.
And that's tough.
But you kind of wish Louisville was better, because if Louisville was better, then Florida State would have won. Also,
Probably, yeah.
one quick thing. I'm doing my best to pronounce Louisville. I'm doing Louisville.
Yeah,
Louisville.
you're good.
Louisville.
You're doing a good job.
I'm doing my very best, okay? I'm trying. I sit in the mirror every day and just go, Louisville, Louisville, Louisville.
So we agree what happened to Florida State was unfair.
Oh, that sucks. That really sucks.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm not gonna say it was the right call. I'm not gonna say it was the wrong call. It was the crappy call to leave them out.
It was, as my friend said, it was the wrong moral choice.
Yeah, it was when Florida State's on the right side of morals. You know, you've messed something up here.
They've made Florida State so sympathetic to the people. No one I know is a Florida State fan, and yet I have like felt myself just thinking like, man, I feel bad for Bud Elliott today. He's having a tough one.
My dad's friend Keith Daly, man, get through it. Get through
Poor
it, Keith.
Oh man. Well, there's been a lot of other stuff going on right now in college football. We've got the playoffs coming up. We've got bowl season starting next weekend, but also there's like 500 quarterbacks in the portal. There's like 1,000 other players in the portal. We've got Riley Leonard deciding where to go. Looks like he might go to Notre Dame. DJ Uiagalelei, Tyler Van Dyke, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Dante Moore. I think he already agreed to go to Michigan. I think that's confirmed. Kyle McCord, Ohio State's quarterback, is in the portal. Kind of didn't expect that one. Didn't see that one
not
coming.
prepared for that one. It seems like there's been a lot of exodus from Ohio State.
Yeah,
the last few days.
I saw
more
that
than you're used to. Ohio State guys or big name Ohio State guys don't tend to end up in the portal ever.
I saw that. You know how everyone was like memeing Ryan Day when he's like, I want to know where Lou Holtz is right now. I saw someone make a meme of that where it's like, I want to know where my players are right now, and I don't know. That one tickled me.
That's funny
because like you can't find them because they're in the portal. But I don't know. I feel like you're Ohio State. Like you'll probably be fine. I know Mike Ryan always talks about how their collective has issues. So
they're a 5-star machine. They just rotate them all through. I'm not worried about it, but I think it's interesting because I don't remember
something to look at.
Yeah,
watch the space.
I don't remember ever seeing this many Ohio State guys into the portal, and I could be wrong there, but it's also a time now where it feels like everyone's in the portal all the time.
Yeah,
most of them will end up staying where they are. Like that's just how it works.
There's also like everyone puts their name in within like the same 3 or 4 days, or like announces they're going to put their name in. So it feels like there's so much attrition, and then when you like look at how many players are actually in a roster and how many are coming into the like from the next recruiting cycle, you're like, okay, like some of this is just the normal like ebb and flow of like making a roster with the correct number of people in it, and like some position groups, might be heavy and some might be light, so you have to adjust for that. I mean, it's all like the balance that head coaches have to find now. There was also news that Texas and Oklahoma agreed to extend their rivalry at the Cotton Bowl through 2036.
I'm not a huge neutral site location girly after this year. It's something I've learned, except for this game. The Cotton Bowl, Texas, Oklahoma there is one of the coolest football venues, games you'll ever go to in your life. If you guys ever have the chance, if you're in Dallas, go to the State Fair, check out the Cotton Bowl. I also saw that Oregon State and Oregon Civil War is continuing, thank God, and I believe the Apple Cup is as well.
Yes.
And that sometimes I sit and I'm like, college football is dead and nothing's ever going to be the same again. Oh man, did I need to hear that? I'm so happy that rivalry is continuing. You see it a lot with teams that have rivalries or rivals that aren't in the same conference. Florida State, Georgia Tech. They can continue it. Washington, Oregon can. I just wish Oklahoma would get off their little high horse, their little high boomer sooner, and play Oklahoma State. Just do it. Just do it. You win most of the time anyways.
There was also news that the NCAA has a new plan for like the top D1 schools to pay athletes through a trust fund. I feel like we'll talk about that at a later date because that is all very like nebulous right now. But I think the good news is like the NCAA is finally like, okay, maybe we should actually like be proactive in some of this. The bad news is I don't trust them to do anything.
Yeah, you lost me at NCAA has a plan.
Yeah, well, they normally don't even have that. So
which is crazy.
Normally their plan is like beg Congress to make bipartisan legislation, which doesn't really happen ever. Manny Diaz, former Miami head coach, is the favorite to accept the Duke football head coaching job. Texas A&M hired Kansas State's very, very impressive offensive coordinator to go there. They're going to have Mike Elko as their head coach, who's a great D coordinator, and Colin Klein, who is the offensive coordinator. Kind of scary because those are both good hires, in my opinion.
Something's going on with Kansas State right now. I'm in the Kansas State Twitter sphere for some reason, and things are falling apart. Things are falling apart there. That's a great hire. I was shocked he left. So Texas A&M has to have something cooking because Colin Klein was like Mr. Football at Kansas State. He was a Heisman finalist. I'm shocked he left.
But yeah, so we'll be back with our new name for our segment next week. Lucy, as always, this has been fun. Have fun at Army Navy.
Thank you. I'm so excited. If you're going to be there, let me know where and what you're up to.
And roll Tide.
Roll Tide.